How's it going, everybody? Don't click off this video yet. It's really bad for my analytics. Okay, so while the forge is heating up, I wanted to talk about something real quick. I know not everyone has access to something like a forge. They can be incredibly expensive. Just getting introduced to it can be something like $500 to get started. But everyone needs some sort of way of getting heat into their shop. It's incredibly important, especially if you either own property or plan to own property in the future. You need to find a way of heating up at least some sort of a thin steel. Anything less than a ½ inch of steel, you should have the ability to heat up and form in some way. You don't need all of the nicest, fanciest stuff, and this is not by all means, by any means, a fancy forge. One of the cheapest and simplest ways you can get heat into your shop would be something like a simple torch and a propane thing. You can get this set up for maybe 20 bucks down at one of your big box stores, Menards, Home Depot, that sort of a place. But I wouldn't suggest relying on that for too long. One of the best things, in my opinion, you could do is get yourself one of these forge burners. You can pick them up for about 40 bucks, and then one of these propane tanks that are designed for a grill, and that kind of a setup would probably run you maybe $100 total. But in that way, you could actually get enough heat into your shop that you can get it up and running. Now, the rest of this I'm actually going to leave up to my subscribers. I know a lot of you guys know how to do things like get cheap heat into your shop. What is the best cheap way of getting heat into the shop so that you can start forming small pieces of metal? Because it's incredibly important that everyone has that ability, especially if you're going to be owning property. Now, there are a couple different tiers of projects that you can work on. Of course, you have your indoor stuff, which of course you want to be nice and perfect and pristine, unless you own children, in which case they're going to be trashed no matter what you do. But you want to try and aim for that kind of cleanliness look. When you get to the outside, you can be a little bit more rustic because you know it's going to be weathered, and so it's kind of function and form kind of equalize when you're going outside. And then you have places like what I'm going to be working on today, which is just an old Morton building. It doesn't matter what it looks like, it only matters that it's functional. And one of the problems that I have with that building down there is the doors don't open all the way because they have sagged over time. And so I need some way of pulling that together. Now, of course, I could go out and just buy a couple of $100 worth of parts. I priced it. It's a few $100s to do this properly with threaded rod. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making some brackets that'll allow me to pull those corners back together so that the doors will function properly. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. If this doesn't prove that you can get by with limited tools, I don't know what to tell you. There it is. See that little plug? If you do it right, that's what you'll get. That's so cool. 3 holes. Has anyone else ever had to deal with this? I've noticed that after I turn this off, the heat will sort of start to travel up these pipes, and it melts off my lines. So I have to take them off whenever I'm done forging. Welcome to the old forge building. I don't know if any of you are still here from the days when I used to do forging. I used to do blacksmithing down here on an old charcoal forge. I've since taken that out, and we haven't used this building for much other than just little bits of storage here and there. It's so far away from the main property that I don't really use it for much. So a couple of years ago, my brother and I were actually planning on putting a real cheap, simple chipboard floor down here so that we could store some stuff up off of the dirt, was the plan. But then coronavirus happened, and then 2 things happened. First of all, I almost didn't see my brother for close to a year after that. Just little bits, you know how it was. And not only that, all plywoods went up dramatically in price, and so I didn't even want to pay the money to finish the project. But we're finally at a point now where the prices come down low enough to where I want to finish the rest of this project. And the biggest thing that I needed to do was fix these doors, and then I'm going to add that floor. And the reason is because I needed a place to store my mill. Basically, I don't have anywhere else that I can store the mill, and it just so happens that I have this extra building on my property that I don't really use for much. So it's going to work out very nicely to store the mill. This door has been sitting on the ground for so long, it's rotting out right there. It's not worth replacing, but it's definitely worth getting off the ground. Oh wow, these aren't connected anymore. I just pulled that board into this one. How interesting. I really should replace some of these boards. There we go. Oh my gosh. Okay, so hopefully you can see now kind of, oh my gosh, how bad this actually is. I didn't realize that this was this rotten. I knew it was getting rotten because it was sitting on the ground, but I didn't know it was this bad. So, I mean, really all of this should be replaced, but I don't want to go replace, because if I replace this, I might as well replace the whole door at that point. And I don't want to do that right now. So what I need to do is find something that I can firmly attach in here, and I think I have an idea on how I want to do that. So if you were actually going to fix this properly, to fix both these doors, and considering how big they are, running all the numbers, it'll cost over $100 to fix these doors. And because we're so far away from the property, it's really not necessary. And so instead, you can do something like this. These straps are the really cheap ones you can get down at Lowe's. They only cost me $14 for 4 of them, which means I get 2 extra straps and the 2 I'm going to be using to fix the door. And that's all it's going to cost me. There we go. There we go. You know, one of the things that I really appreciate some companies do is they'll take the bit that you need for your screws and they'll throw it inside the box as sort of an extra thing. A lot of companies don't even advertise that there's a bit in there. They just give one to you every time you buy a box. I really appreciate that. I don't think GripFast did that. I don't know, this is an old box. But the Vortex screws that I've been buying recently, they do that. And I really appreciate that, having an extra bit, because usually I have my own. I'll bring whatever bit that I need whenever I'm doing work like this. But it's just nice to have a spare, you know? So I appreciate that when companies do that. There we go. Would you believe me if I told you that all of this is laser flat? Maybe I should prop that side up. The whole point of this is not to make it laser flat. There's no reason to do that down here because anything I put on the ground is just going to mulch away anyway over the next decade or so. So the point of this, I'm out of breath. The point of this is just to get things up off of the dirt, so anything I put out here is not going to mulch itself, it's just going to be the pallets that mulch from the bottom. There's a wasp up there. But the whole point of this is just so that I can get things like the mill out here and get them off the ground. Now they're attacking me. I should probably get going. Losing a couple pallets is not that big of a deal to me. And to tell you the truth, I don't think that this chipboard is going to be an issue either. It's an exterior chipboard. I'm under an overhang, so I don't really see much of an issue from that. So let me go get the mill, and then I'll be done for the day. Oh, this is so cool. Sorry, give me a moment. I am so ecstatic about this. Obviously, the tracks are not level. I'm gonna have to do some work to make sure that it's nice and level before I actually do any real milling. The whole reason I wanted it in the forge building here is because these doors here are wide enough to where if I add more track, I can just run this right out into the field, which means I can mill into the field, or I can mill in here if it's raining or if the weather's bad. I can still have an opportunity to mill. I still need to make some sort of a log holding device, so that's probably going to be a future video. And then what I might be doing is tying the rails into that. So if you want to see this mill operate, that was last week's video. I had 2 full days of milling, and I got some beautiful walnut slabs out of there, as well as what I think is cherry. I kept calling it cedar in the video, but I think it may be cherry. I still don't know exactly what that is. So I'll link that at the end of this video if you want to see that. However, next week I'm going to be making a kiln so that we can dry up all that lumber, so that way I don't end up with quite as much cracking. And so that'll be the subject of next week's video. I need to make sure that that lumber is dried properly, not only because I want to use it in my own wood shop, but I'd also like to start selling some of those walnut slabs and see if I can get this mill to at least pay for itself, if not make a little bit of profit. That would be amazing if I could make that work. So thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about this or any of the other projects that I've been doing. I'd love any feedback that you guys have. So thank you all for watching. Catch y'all next time.